All right, testing sound. We are.
Just not really hearing a whole lot.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah.
Are they're not turned on?
Maybe. Here, try it now.
We're trying now.
Oh, yeah.
The
How do you have to fucking turn on headphones?
The things that a power button can
I
fix.
might have them on wrong. There's the oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. There we go. That's that
All
comforting noise. I don't think this has much sound on the right side. It's just all the left side, but that's okay. Or I'm going deaf, We're doing our best over here.
I know.
Okay.
Let's check the sound.
And a 1 and 2 and a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Great.
I was expecting you to sing.
And welcome back to the Haunted Heart Podcast, folks. We're here. We promise.
We promise.
We promise. We do. We do that. We do that. Oh, gosh. I've missed you.
I missed you as well. I mean, I've seen you, like, most days.
Most days. Most days, though, I am just a shadow or a figment, an apparition. An apparatus.
I feel very much like an apparition.
Just sort of like this, like ghostly shape that
like a shadow person.
Yeah,
like a shadow person,
and it just walks down the hallways, down the stairs, to the fridge.
Gets out a Monster Energy drink and just floats on upstairs,
and then floats back on upstairs in this crazy world that we call life right now.
Yeah. That's the mood. A lot of people have been having problems with shadow people, though. Actually, it's a thing. It's a thing that's going around right now.
Is it because we're shadow people?
Maybe we're the people. Maybe we're. I'm worried because I had a dream.
Oh God.
So I've heard from multiple people that I'm like tangentially associated with. I've heard from at least one listener of the show who's dealing with some shadow people. Actually, a couple are dealing with some shadow people stuff. And then I've just seen like random acquaintances that I don't talk to ever, like through social media or whatever. Like they have like mentioned something here or there about like shadow people or whatever. So like it's a thing that's happening right now. And I'm wondering if it's because people are just in their houses more, or if potentially like, I don't know. There's a lot going on with different people, but just maybe we'll do an episode on that soon.
Maybe.
I would like to cover that because I think there's a lot of like weird, like sometimes people like assume automatically that shadow people are inherently bad, but it's not necessarily that. It could just be somebody's trying to give you a message, or it could be that somebody's looking out for you as well. So it's not an inherently bad thing. So if you are dealing with a fucking shadow person, just know it might not be bad, but if it feels bad, it's probably bad.
What happens if you talk to your shadow?
I think it would depend.
Asking for a friend.
I think it would definitely depend on a lot of factors. One being your own mental stability, another being who you're fucking talking to. So probably look into it. But
questionable.
Anyway, I was going to say my thought about shadow people reminded me of a dream that I had. So apparently, I had this dream that I was in this like very old druid sacred space. It was not a church, but it was clearly a sacred space. Mm-hmm. And I was in Scotland.
Okay.
And I was just so drawn to this space and I wanted to do magic there. And I was like, I had my candles and I was like ready to go. And I felt very captivated by it, but it was like this like energy of like, some big dick energy happened here.
Okay.
But I couldn't really tell if it was good or bad. And I was just like, in my dream, it was so realistic. And I'm like I'm laying things out. And it was like one of those spaces where you know that like something very impactful happened there. And by working magic in a space like that, it's like, are you about to like, are we going to do something good? Or are we going to do something bad? And I have friends there that were like, can you just not do this? And all of this is a dream, but it's so super realistic. And it was like the whole night. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, am I astral projecting like to the UK in my fucking sleep and working magic? Like, is that what's going on? So we very well could be the shadow people in people's apartments. And if we are, I'm sorry, lock the fridge because I don't need the calories.
But wait, if you consume calories as a shadow person, does it count?
I think it fucking counts, man. It's like sleep eating. We talked about that.
Oh, yes, we did.
Way back at the beginning of the show.
Way back when.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be great, though, if, like, it was just your shadow that consumed all the weight, so that way your shadow just got fat and not you?
Oh, that's a book called The Picture of Dorian Gray, and it doesn't really turn out very well.
Oh, yeah, well.
It's not advisable.
Yeah.
But anyway, like shadow people, you all may have noticed that we were gone from your feed for a couple weeks.
It was just blame it on Annabelle. You know, she escaped. Like we had to put a lockdown on that.
Look, we were called away. We have very important business to attend to.
Mm-hmm. They were like, we need a podcaster for this.
Yeah, and not just one.
We need
but
two.
A team.
We need a team.
A well-integrated team who knows each other, knows each other's strengths and weaknesses, and
mental illnesses.
Yes, and can take care of this situation. So if you're hearing this, the Annabelle situation is handled.
It's handled.
It's fine.
It's handled.
Don't ask us how.
Don't.
We don't need to share details.
No.
But you just sleep a little safer tonight. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you feel a little shadow person there gently stroking your hair, it's probably us.
Probably.
I mean, why assume anything else? Honestly, truly, why assume anything else? It's definitely not a man who has crawled down from your attic after spending 18 months there without seeing the sun at all in his emaciated form, just unfolding from your attic as you sleep in your bed so he can come caress your
terrifying.
hair.
No, I don't like that.
It's not good. It's I read actually, I should cover that on the show. I read a case once where that was like an element that was involved.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was not good. It stuck with me for a long time.
Well, like, just goes back to that whole like invasion of like home privacy type thing and that sense of security that you think you have, but do you?
Sorta. For some reason that's worse for me if something is like living in my home without me knowing it. Like, that's worse than if you were to just be outside my home and be like, I'm coming in, and just like kick the fucking door down and come in and like make, you know?
Yeah.
That would be better for me. I mean,
right.
I don't want any of it, not to belittle anyone, but like something sleeping in my ceiling and watching me fucking sleep every night. No, man.
But listen, if you are going to do that, I mean, damn, do some chores. You know what? I mean,
true. That's
sweep the floor, do some dishes while we're asleep, like, you know, mop the floor, do something, right? Like, do something
contribute.
Helpful. Fold some of the laundry that you leave just laying in the chair.
Right.
Like, contribute to the household if you're going to fucking be hiding up in this attic.
For sure, because what one creepy man living in your attic won't bring to the table, won't provide, another will.
For real.
So I'm just saying, like, don't be sitting at the table if you ain't bringing nothing to it, as Lil Wayne said.
What if you just like completely invert that and you discover it, and you discover that there's someone like that living in your attic or in your home, and then you just go to hide in their space and then start watching them?
I'm definitely not going to their space though. Like, I'm not.
I would.
No, I'm not. Unless I'm laying in wait to fucking murder them. Because, I mean, I'm just saying, if you coming up in my motherfucking house, like, I'm gonna get you. Like, and it ain't gonna be like I mean, I don't
You're gonna
really
get got, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't really trust myself around guns, but I got ways of getting you. I'm still gonna get you.
That is true. That is very true.
So it's fine.
But
Wow, that got scary real quick.
it did.
Anyway.
Damn, that got like really fucking weird and like dark and like
Yeah,
creepy.
if you're dealing with a shadow person, just like be glad it's not a real person who's laying in wait in your house.
Yeah. Well, but we do have some real people that we do need to talk about, though.
We do.
That are not shadow people that we are aware of.
I mean, they might be. If you are, fucking give us a heads up.
I mean, let us know.
Yeah.
Send us an email.
On our podcast at gmail.com. If you are a shadow person, we'd love to interview you for the show. If you live in somebody's attic, though, please don't email me.
No.
We're not interested.
They're just like
I'm
typing
not taking
away
any borders at this time.
from the person's laptop that they have stolen.
They probably listen to this fucking show all the time. They're like, Haunted Heart Podcast is my favorite podcast. That's what I listen to.
They've
I
done
watch
purchased
this bitch
merch
sleep.
and they've got like they've got one of our t-shirts just like pinned to the attic wall.
Fuck yeah. Absolutely. Cover your pale, spindly like arms and legs with our fucking merch. You know, we have throw blankets.
I was gonna
If
say
it's
we've
cold,
got girl. What you need in that attic? We've got it. We got throw blankets.
If
We got a
it's cold,
shirt.
get you
we
a
put
stay
over there.
spooky throw blanket and keep yourself warm.
I mean, we've got stickers that you can post all over the fucking place. I mean,
Make it a home.
I mean, you don't need to steal their mugs because you
Right.
can just buy one from us and have your own.
Right.
Huh.
Why live in a crawl space when you could make it a home? You know?
Why live in a crawl space when you could live in a haunted heart space?
Right. I mean, we're making, you know, you're in this for the long term
Obviously.
until you're discovered.
Until you're discovered and then dragged out, and then the owner just like, or the police just like find your space and it's just weirdly covered with all of our stuff. And then we've got issues.
And then we get a call. They're like,
don't write
"Let me
us.
talk to
We don't want to be, what's the word? Not involved, but
we don't want
like
to be culpable.
culpable. Yeah,
We
don't
need
wanna
no
be inculpable
connection.
of that. We don't need no. So if you are all of the above, we love you from afar.
It's like 8 different listeners writing letters to the P.O. box and fucking emails right now just to fuck with me. Actually, I live in your crawl space. Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, draw a girl a bath from time to time. That's all I'm saying.
That's
when I'm in the
pretty much all we're
shower.
doing, too.
How about you like pull a real creepy man living in the crawl space move and like put my towel into the dryer and run it for about 10 minutes just to warm it up for me.
Absolutely.
There are ways that we could make this work.
Absolutely.
And the main one is that I never fucking see you or know that you exist.
Absolutely.
But you just do nice things for me. So.
Absolutely.
Anyway, glad we got through that. Glad we worked all the way through to completion on that.
All the way. Got all the way through it. All the way.
All the way. And then some, in fact. So, yes, we're back. We have some business to attend to because we are business women.
Mm-hmm.
We need to acknowledge our new Patreon folks who have joined, who have linked up.
We do. Girl, and you know what? I mean, listen, we are so thankful for your contribution to the show, and we just want to express our love and gratitude for you and invoke your names on this, our episode.
I thought you straight up forgot the name of the podcast.
On this, I kind of did.
Like, I could see the loading screen. I could just see the loading screen and like the circle just going and going and going.
On this, well,
this, the day of my daughter's wedding.
On this, the day of the episode recording. Yes. So let's get to it, shall we?
Do you
want to go first, ladies first?
I do want to go first.
Queens first.
Absolutely. Can you please hand me my candle?
I'll hand you their candle.
Excellent. How lovely. So, I have the pleasure of starting us off this lovely evening with an invocation of Garrett H., who is a brand new spooky Stay spooky. Squad member. Ooh, that first Patreon invocation just hit different.
It do
girl.
hit different. And our next invocation goes to Heather R., who is a member of our Haunted Heart Harem. All right, folks, your candles are lit. They are lighting the space in between us throughout the rest of this episode. But, forever and always in our dark little hearts. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wishing you health, wealth, happiness, and good intentions.
Mm-hmm. All that goodness for the rest of this absolutely horrible year.
Yeah. Yeah, you need it.
You
need it. We need it.
We need it like we need like a cultural reset. I think I was having this conversation earlier with a member of our Facebook group, Chris, who said that or suggested that we need another 2007 Britney shaving her head.
To close the portal, to close the loop.
Yeah, just to sort of like we needed some sort of cultural like event so significant that would just reset it. And then just got me to thinking, with all of the Free Britney stuff going on and like all of that, like what if that's the case? What if they are keeping her from the Clippers?
I don't know.
Who knows?
The whole Britney Spears situation is so like just insidious is the word I want to use. Yep. It's just very uncomfortable. If you don't know what's going on with Britney Spears, like definitely look it up. There's some good videos on YouTube with like details of things, but it's like it's just very unsettling.
Yeah.
We all go through times, and I feel like we are perfect examples, poster children, if you will, for mental illness and also mental health.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really alarming. If you don't know what's going on with Britney Spears, you should look into it. It's very scary. I would almost cover it here because it's very scary. Anyway.
But that's not what we're covering today. I don't think.
That's not what we're covering today.
What
if I did? What if
I actually have thought about that. I was like, It's been in my backlog. I was like,
What if I was like, hit me, baby, one more time?
Isn't she lucky? No. Okay. No, I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Sorry to just keep the people who don't know what the fuck's going on with Britney Spears right now are so over this conversation, but like that song, Lucky, like set to like a minor chord, like even more of a minor chord, and then like stretch it out a little bit and like fuck with the sound and make it like a little bit like dissonant.
Kind of like how I used to play it in my head when I was like 12 years old in the fucking shower, just being so over dramatic.
Yeah.
I used to sing that song in the shower and just like bawl my eyes out because I just
this Hollywood girl. I can see you now.
Exactly. It just That's what happened. So
meanwhile, there was like me like screaming like Avril Lavigne, like fucking trying not to like bust my ass in the fucking soap suds.
Right.
Yes, there was a lot. There's a lot going on. So we're not talking about any of that shit this week.
We're not talking about nothing this week. We're actually done. We're done right now.
Actually, that's it.
The show.
It's a wrap,
20 minutes.
a tight
you're good.
20.
A tight 20.
We've never done a tight 20 in our lives. Maybe you have. Definitely not me though. I'm a tight 20 kind of girl. Anyway, looking through social media.
Oh
right
God,
now,
horrible.
Okay, it's clear that there's no love lost for 2020.
I want to meet the person who at the end of all this is like, you know what? Actually, 2020 was a good year for me.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not. I'm not mad at having like a little bit of distance from my life. Like I feel like it definitely is. So I definitely miss. I
Think about what you say.
I know that it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. So that's why I'm kind of like, luckily, given my very particular situation, I have not had a lot of I haven't experienced as much of the blowback of COVID-19. Luckily, I have a job that I can do from pretty much anywhere.
Right.
And,
Both of us.
We have security and we're doing okay. Mentally, there's a lot happening culturally in the world. It's kind of a shit show. And that definitely has an effect. But as far as like, I do think that it's given us an opportunity to kind of take like a half step back from the hustle and bustle and really sort of turn inward and focus on things that we need to fix within ourselves, or not even necessarily fix, but just like things to explore within in this time. And that's something that I feel like our culture doesn't really give us an opportunity to do. So I kind of luckily have had the good fortune to not be impacted by some of the more like, I guess, not practical, but some of the more things that people are struggling with right now. And so for me, it's kind of been an opportunity to kind of explore different practices and learn new things about myself, basically. And I have appreciated that very much. But I think everybody can basically agree that 2020 is a little bit of a shit show. I mean,
it's chaotic.
She out here.
She's definitely like what's that? She's definitely a chaotic alignment.
I resent that. I resent that. But okay. Clocking you.
I think she's a little bit of a chaotic alignment.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I'm like not as, I don't know.
Perhaps.
But basically everybody can agree that this year pretty much sucks.
Yeah.
Although we do have a silver lining at a time like this. You know, I'm a silver lining type of gal. So I'm here to provide you with that silver lining, with that uplifting.
Providing uplifting silver
100%.
linings?
I'm here to uplift you in this difficult time.
Who the fuck are you?
I am here. I'm witch mother. I don't know who you thought I was, but I'm here to do the Lord's work and uplift you. Okay?
Right.
I'm here to
don't listen to this fake. It's a fake out, y'all.
We're going to lift him up.
It's a fake out. It's a bluff.
So, are you ready for my silver lining in this
What
time?
is your silver lining?
My silver lining is that, very simply, at least we're not living in 14th century Europe.
This is true.
You know?
This is very, 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 very true.
Something you can be thankful for each morning upon waking.
I mean, I think both of us wouldn't fare well in 14th century Europe.
I would have been burned at the stake long ago, my friend. I would never have reached the ripe old age that I am now. I would have been burned at the stake.
It wouldn't even have been for anything
13.
witchy. You would have just had like a smart ass comment to say, and they'd been like, you know what? I know she's probably not a witch, but fuck it.
Look, I saw her mixing dirt up in bowls. I saw her filling her pockets up with rocks.
We're gonna put her on there anyway. We'll put her on the pyre.
Yeah, that's it. You know, just risk. What is it like? Risk reward. And it's like risk reward. We probably could just burn her. It's fine.
Burn the witch.
Yes, I resent that. So with Miss Rona wreaking havoc as the new plague in town, I thought it might be interesting to take a look back this week at the OG plague. A plague so bad that they literally just named the actual disease plague. One name, like Prince.
They're like, so what are we going to call it?
Just
fucking plague, dude.
Plague, man.
I mean, looking around at the mass destruction and death, and it's like, we're just gonna fucking call it plague.
Plague sounds pretty good, Jim. I think we'll just go with that.
It was probably someone who was just so over it. It was probably like, you know what I mean? Like some doctor who's just like been through it all and he's just like fucking tired. He's probably done some sort of opiate or cocaine. Did they do that? They probably didn't have cocaine back then. I don't think.
I put a pin in that and we'll come back to it at some point. We'll have to look into that. They definitely did have opiates though from the Silk Road.
Oh yeah. So opiates. So, maybe do some opiates and he's just like, it's just a fucking plague.
It's plague.
Just a goddamn plague.
And they were like, how do you spell that? So so yeah, that's right. We are going to talk about the bubonic plague, our silver lining, aka the Black Death.
The Black Death.
So, are you ready for history class? Because I'm taking you to history class. Is history heavy? Buckle in.
That's fine. Listen, I was a strong B- in history.
I'm going to get my little banana clip in my hair. I'm going to get my little pencil skirt on, honey. I'm going to get my little cropped sweater. Mm-hmm. We are here. We are ready for history class.
I've got my notes. I've got my planner.
I have my ruler so I can pop it. We're ready to go.
All right.
So right on the heels of the Great Famine of 1315 that killed millions.
Wow, that sucks. It's starting great. We just got over a famine.
Remember, silver lining. Here to uplift this week.
Right.
Okay. Right on the heels of the Great Famine of 1315 that killed millions, the plague arrived in Europe in October 1347 when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. That day, the folks who gathered on the docks to greet those arriving by sea were met with a horrible surprise. Most sailors aboard the ships were dead, and those still alive stumbled forward looking strikingly like the dead, gravely ill and covered in dark black boils that oozed blood and pus.
Ugh.
Sicilian authorities hastily ordered the fleet of death ships, which is metal as fuck, by the way,
honestly,
out of the harbor, but it was far too late for that. Over the next 5 years, the Black Death would kill more than 20 million people in Europe, reducing the population of the continent by nearly a third.
Could you imagine just being like, you're someone and you're just at the port or wherever, and then they just like some fucking scary ass like bubonic plague having ass man.
I'm imagining like a scene from The Walking Dead just like coming fucking towards you, and you are so not prepared for this.
I'm just like, honey, do you need some, like, put some aloe on that? Like, what happened? Did they have aloe? I don't see. This is why I had a B- in history class. I don't know.
I mean, shit.
They probably just fucking like cleaned it with like fucking spit. Who knows?
It wasn't. They didn't do well in the hygiene side of things. I mean, I've heard, you know those Navy men. Had rather you have caught the gay rather than the plague during your stint on the ocean. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all's well. All's fair between friends.
But also, what a dick move to like
come back,
go ahead and pull into port.
Yeah, let's just go back home. What could happen? It's fine.
Go back.
Yeah. But even before the death ships pulled into port at Messina, many Europeans had already heard rumors about a great pestilence that was carving a deadly path across the trade routes of the East. So like the Silk Road, spices, all of that. Mm-hmm. There was, in fact, some truth to these rumors. The plague is actually thought to have originated in Asia over 2,000 years ago and was likely spread by trading ships. In the early 1340s, the plague had struck China, India, Persia, Syria, and Egypt. Although importantly, the most advanced waste management systems and hygienic practices of these cultures prevented the disease from wreaking the kind of havoc we saw later when the plague hit Europe.
Right.
Europeans were very poorly equipped for the horrible reality of the sickness they called the Black Death. There were actually 3 different forms of plague afoot in Europe with varying symptoms.
Ooh.
So we're going to learn about it.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so the first one is the one that you've probably heard of. It's probably the one that comes to mind, bubonic plague. It's the most common form of plague. Symptoms of the disease include fever between 38 and 41 degrees Celsius.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Which for my U.S. friends. See, that was for Europe. We always list Fahrenheit first, but I'm trying to be considerate and list the Celsius first for once. You are welcome, the UK.
You're welcome, the rest of the world.
Yes. So fever of 38 to 41 degrees Celsius, which is 100 to 106 degrees Fahrenheit for us, which is quite, pretty high fever.
106?
Yeah. 106 is pretty high.
Baby, get an ice pack.
And that fever is accompanied by headaches, painful aching joints, nausea, vomiting, and just general exhaustion. Left untreated, of those who contract the bubonic plague, 80% die within 8 days.
Shit. So that's like some Samara from the Ring type bullshit. Like she coming out
yes.
like you actually gonna fucking die.
Oh yes. Yep.
Wow. Except she gives you an extra day. Well,
Consider it.
Days? 7 days. No, 7
It's
days.
7 days.
Yeah.
It's definitely 7 days. Plague gives you an extra.
Yeah, plague gives you an extra day. Mm-hmm. Consider it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So the most commonly noted symptom of bubonic plague was the appearance of buboes in the groin, neck, and armpits. These are like welts that would rise up. And they would ooze pus and bleed when opened.
Oh, so like a boil.
Yeah, exactly like a boil, except black.
Oh.
So, yeah. Like a really bad one.
Ugh.
And it obviously it has something to do with, now here's where I go I riff. I'm going off the notes. So this is actually not like, I'm just making this up. Could be true. But
the rest is still unwritten.
So pretty much like the groin and your armpits are like areas where it seems to be like some sort of lymphatic thing. Like it's infecting the lymphatic system because those are areas where you can have lymphatic buildup if something's not going on with your with your lymphatic system.
It's not
draining properly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's more that side of things. It's attacking like the lymphatic system as well as lots of other things. So of this particular symptom, the Italian poet Giovanni Boccaccio wrote, quote, "In men and women alike, at the beginning of the malady, certain swellings, either on the groin or under the armpits, waxed to the bigness of a common apple. Others to the size of an egg, some more and some less, and these vulgar named plague boils.
Ooh.
From the two said parts of the body, this deadly gavocciolo soon began to propagate and spread itself in all directions indifferently, after which the form of the malady began to change. Black spots or livid making their appearance on many cases on the arm or the thigh or elsewhere, now few and large, now minute and numerous. As the gavocciolo had been and still was an infallible token of approaching death, such also were these spots on whomsoever they showed themselves." End quote. So, doesn't sound very pleasant.
No, not at all. I don't want that shit all over me.
In most cases,
I've had a boil once.
I've never had one. Sounds like a terrible experience.
Mine was super embarrassing. I had it on my inner thigh.
Oh, that's tough.
I had it right on my
That's tough.
like on my inner thigh, right? And I was just like,
in there.
This is really weird, and I didn't know what it was. It was like kind of like scary. It got rather big, and then so I had to go to the doctor, and then they had to like lance it.
Did you have plague?
No, I didn't have the plague, but they did have to lance it. But like the nurse came in and she was like, "So I hear you've got a boil," and I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Where's it at?" And I'm like, "Well, it's down there."
Why don't you find it, man?
I was like,
"Let's play hide and seek."
She was like down there, and she goes, and then she looks at me, she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna get a male doctor." She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a male." And so like the doctor who was a male came in,
and you were like, "Plot twist,"
and I was
bitch.
like, "Hey, all right, how you doing, doctor?"
They haven't written that porn.
Nah.
Boil doctor, bang, XXX.
Oh God, that's so gross. But they had to lance it, which means they had to slice
Just cut it open. This is a great episode.
And then it went away. It didn't have the plague though, so silver lining.
Silver lining.
Yeah.
Uplifting.
I'm so glad that thousands of people now know that I have had a boil.
Yeah, I mean, you went in on that. I appreciate that.
I mean, it's fine. They also know that I fucking
took a shit in the fucking bidet. This is a lot. You've been sharing a lot.
My life is an open book. It's honesty. My candor is, hopefully appreciated. So
yeah.
Anyway, continue.
I mean, I certainly grew from that reliving of a traumatic story that was told to me in real time when it happened, and I was like, "This is terrifying." Yeah. I've never had anything like that. I rebuke that.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you should feel bad, like if you have.
It hurt like a bitch, though.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Especially with the way that it was located, because like that's friction there, right? Like in between,
right.
And it just.
It's a lot going on. It's a highly trafficked area.
Yeah, it was not great. So
anyway,
some more about these other people.
Some more about these other people who were not so lucky. In cases of the bubonic plague, the swelling and black spots were followed by an acute fever and vomiting blood.
Never good.
Most victims died 2 to 7 days after initial infection. Freckle-like spots and rashes, which could have been caused by flea bites, were identified as another potential sign of plague. Again, 80% of people who contracted the bubonic plague were dead within 8 days. And the spots were like, the black spot was like this omen, the Gavacciolo, as Giovanni Boccaccio wrote. So, that's the first form. Okay. Second form, pneumonic plague.
Huh.
As if bubonic plague wasn't enough to worry about, another form of the disease was noted in 1348.
So she did a wig change.
She did. She did a
she had a reveal.
Costume
she was like,
change.
Oh.
And now we're here. So 1348, pneumonic plague starts to become known on the scene, I suppose. And that form of plague seemed to infect the lungs and lead to significant respiratory problems, as you probably could have guessed from the name. The issues were soon accompanied by fever, cough, and blood-tinged saliva. As the pneumonic plague progressed, the patient's saliva became free-flowing and bright red.
Ooh.
Pneumonic plague was even more deadly than the bubonic version. It carried a mortality rate of 90 to 95%.
Fuck. I mean, that's pretty much you dead.
Yeah.
You dead. That's me as a doctor.
Yeah, sorry,
me
ma'am.
as a doctor. Sorry. I'm sorry. You're dead. Bye.
No. But yeah, so I mean, I think it's very interesting that it's of course very sad, but as the disease progresses, the patient's saliva starts becoming free-flowing and bright red, especially in a time where people are so superstitious. And that is very, you could imagine that as these people are losing more and more blood, they're becoming more and more ashen, they're becoming more and more pale. And from that, we can kind of like see how, like, not saying that this is where vampires came from. Absolutely not. The legend of the vampire is much older than this. But I think it's interesting how that particular disease sort of mimics what we see with depictions of vampires.
Right.
And potentially why that potentially the lore of pneumonic plague could have gotten transferred into the lore of vampires and sort of carried on. Like there's a connection there that I think is really interesting. Because if you're a peasant, or not a peasant, but if you're
I am.
I guess I guess it would still be called, you'd still call people a peasant. If you're, just some guy who like works the land and lives an honest, noble life, and you haven't really spent a lot of time in school, because school's not really a thing at that point in time in Europe for most people, unless you're super wealthy. I can sort of see how that would be very frightening for you if, like, old Mrs. Windsor down the lane is now suddenly, like, pale as the moon and spewing blood forward. Like, clearly in a suspicious time, that would have been
Lady
nightmarish.
Windsor, how's it going? She's just like,
Yeah, it's not going well.
All right, well, good day.
See you tomorrow. Yes.
Why did I get Australian there?
I'm not really sure. That was weird. Like, where did that guy come from?
Me as a tiny. Where did the Australian
Very
come from?
interesting, considering Australia didn't exist at that point in time. I mean, it existed. It was just full of those people that later, got kicked out, pushed
Right.
inland.
Right.
Oh,
God. This sounds awful.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not
Shit. So we've got spew and saliva blood.
good. Yeah, we have pneumonic plague. And then we have...
Well, so there was the bubonic,
right,
pneumonic.
Right.
Now we have
Bubonic, pneumonic, symphonic, Teutonic.
Teutonic.
Suddenly it becomes a 90s rap song. No, so we have bubonic, we have pneumonic, and now we have septicemic plague.
This sounds rather insidious.
Yes. So septicemic plague was the least common of the 3 forms of plague, and yet it is actually the most deadly. The mortality rate for this form of plague is near 100%.
I was going to say, like, if you had the last one, which was, 90 to 95%?
I mean,
like,
we started
shit.
at 80%, which is not great.
No.
Not ideal. So symptoms of this included high fevers and purple skin patches. In cases of pneumonic and particularly septicemic plague, the progress of the disease is so rapid that often there would be no time for the development of the enlarged lymph nodes that were noted in bubonic plague. So this one takes you out so fast that there's no time.
This one was a
for the
businesswoman.
spots. Yeah. I mean,
She-
she's effective.
She was like, I've got things I've got to do. I was here for a purpose. We're going to.
That's it. Yeah.
You're done.
Yes. So those are our 3 forms of plague. And obviously, with all these people developing plague boils and black spots and spewing forth blood, 14th century Europe was a pretty nightmarish scene.
I was just. You think their property values were like during that time?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Someone was like, what if we just go to Europe?
Maybe not. Maybe lock the doors. How about? Maybe. So the people of Europe naturally had one overarching concern: to figure out how in the hell this thing spread. The Black Death was indeed a terrifyingly, indiscriminately contagious disease. Quote, "The mere touching of the clothes," wrote Boccaccio, "appeared to itself to communicate the malady to the toucher," end quote. Remember, this is before we knew about germ theory. This is sort of like prior to that. The disease also was also terrifyingly efficient. People who were perfectly healthy when they went to bed at night could be dead by morning.
Shit.
Today, scientists understand that the Black Death was spread by a bacteria called Yersinia pestis. The French biologist Alexandre Yersin discovered this particular germ at the end of the 19th century. The bacteria travels from person to person through the air as well as through the bite of infected fleas and rats. Both of these pests could be found almost everywhere in medieval Europe, but they were particularly at home aboard ships of all kinds.
Right.
Which is how the deadly plague made its way through one European port city after another, terrorizing all of Europe.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I hear you. You're not speaking, but I hear you.
What'd I say?
You're not speaking, but I hear you.
I'm just like, I mean, it's just a lot to unpack.
Are you
here,
feeling
right?
uplifted? Are you feeling
I
uplifted?
mean, I kind of am because
Silver
I'm like,
lining.
I kind of am. I'm like, well, damn, at least, we don't have this yet.
Yeah.
At least we're not in this horrible time period.
Yeah.
Right now. At least we have things like
Netflix.
hand sanitizer.
Oh, yes, that too.
And we wash our hands and we can now, and we can wipe our ass. Mm-hmm. And we're a little bit more hygienic.
Yes.
At least.
Yes.
Some of us.
And I mean, that was the key, just to kind of underscore that. I know I talked a little bit about that up top. This thing had hit Asia, and what we would now today call the Middle East, way before it hit Europe. So, and they were fine. I mean, they weren't fine. I mean, it made an impact there, but it did not spread and stay and keep spreading and become this like great pestilence that lasted years and years and years over there, because there were better hygienic practices. There was more of a mind towards, I mean, we did the episode, go back and listen to the episode about the Edinburgh Vaults. Like, we talked about how there were huge skyscrapers made out of horsehair and the hopes and dreams of the Scottish. And they would just, like, open up their fucking door or their window or whatever and throw the shit pot out into the street. And you have it, like, 5 feet wide of just, like, shit. So in that kind of environment, things like rats are going to proliferate. You're not going to have the level of cleanliness that you need to fight a disease like this. Right. That is why it was so, like, that's why it crippled Europe. And I think it's important to mention that it's not like, I think it's important to mention the difference that in Asia, we see this was like the time period of the, I forget. It was like the golden era of the Arabic world. Mm-hmm. And so, you have all of these amazing libraries and all of this awesome like industry and design and all of these things going on there. And, they get exposed to this thing and work through it. Europe gets exposed to it and just is on fire for several centuries.
Just fucking cripples them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's an important distinction to be made.
Yeah.
That the Black Death was not necessarily on the scale of what it was in Europe everywhere.
Right.
But anyway, I hear you. I hear the words that you're not saying. I hear you saying Katie. You say Katie. Katie. Thank you. I hear you. When is this going to get spooky, bitch? This is the Haunted Heart podcast. We're supposed to be staying spooky. You're giving me a history lesson. That's what we're doing here. Okay.
Yeah.
You can close your textbooks, class.
Okay.
Because our history lesson for the night is now over.
My book is closed.
Okay. Now I want to talk some of the more haunted elements of the Black Death. So,
I actually also have a story for this too. I'm wondering if I'm wondering if you'll mention it. If not,
okay, absolutely.
I'll mention it, yeah.
Please share with the class. So I have a couple spooky facts for you, rapid fire. Okay.
Ooh, good. Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. So there were so many deaths and bodies in Europe during this period that people started constructing houses and chapels out of the bleached bones of the victims. Because here in 14th century Europe, we build with what we've got. And what we've got is a lot of bones. So build me a house, Johnny.
Who was the fucking engineer? It was like, you know what?
Yeah, he was like, I think we could probably build something with this. You know what he said? He said, silver lining.
He was
I built you a house out of these fucking bones, Mary. We can live in it for approximately 6 months before you catch the Black Plague.
He was a man of enterprise, okay?
He was. I appreciate it. He was just trying to do what he could do. It doesn't sound like a great idea to live in a house made out of bones.
I don't know that would. How would one construct a house made out of bones? It's not like you can like melt them down and make what do you do? Do you just make a wall? I don't understand.
I guess you would cut notches out, kind of like building a log cabin. You would cut a notch out and then you would stack them according to that. We have spent too much time on this.
I mean, that's also kind of metal though.
It is, but a very bad idea. We just build this house out of the bones of plague victims. Not a good idea. So one of the most famous of these churches that is built out of bones actually still stands today and is said to be haunted by all the dead from that period. It stands, and I'm going to pronounce this terribly, it stands in Kutna Hora Sedlik Ossuary in the Czech Republic. Czech people are metal as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Czech people are the bomb. Super fucking spooky. I love it.
Yeah.
So that was our first rapid fire fact. So
we've got places, church, you said it was a church?
Fucking whole ass homestead built out of bones.
A humble homestead.
Absolutely. Now, if you are anywhere near the Czech Republic, don't go do magic in a fucking church made out of bones. It's just not what you should be doing. I hope I don't do any dream magic there.
That's what happens tonight. You astral project to the fucking bone church.
I don't want to. I don't think it's good. I'm still worried.
Right.
I'm worried about that. Anyway, so moving on. Next spooky fact. Bad air on account of all the dead bodies, which were piled up outside of people's homes in the streets, mainly because nobody could bury them without being exposed to the plague, became a major issue during the Black Death. In many senses, eau de cologne and perfumes became proliferous during this era on account of the plague. So lots of people have seen the plague doctors with the big mask and the big beak that looks birdish. They use
goth big bird.
Fuck yeah. I mean, it was goth as fuck. But they would take herbs and like lavender seeds and little satchels, and they would place, the reason that beak is so long is not to be fucking terrifying, although it definitely accomplishes that purpose. It's so that they could stuff a bunch of herbs down in that beak, and then they wouldn't have to smell the stench of death everywhere. Those guys actually, most of them is very interesting. I did a tour one time, and they were explaining how there was a section on the Black Death, and they were explaining how the doctors would basically be contracted for like a specific period of months or period of time. And basically the city would be hoping that the doctor would die before he worked to the end of his contract, so they didn't have to pay him.
You know what? Doesn't surprise me.
And there were a couple doctors that they just like, they worked all the way to the end of their contract and they didn't get fucking paid, and they were like, you gotta pay me. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Motherfucker, I just worked through this fucking black plague. Hello, you about to pay me my motherfucking coins.
Yes,
sir. Richard.
But actually, you would think that like being a plague doctor in this time would be absolutely terrifying because, they had no idea how things were being transmitted. And these doctors were working with these patients. And oftentimes once a patient got sick, the doctor was kind of the only person they were seeing if they were taken away from their family. So to be basically, because what would happen if you lived in a city like Edinburgh or the like, and it was totally different if you were out in the country, which there were fewer cases in the country, but it still did pass there. But if you lived in a city and you were diagnosed with plague, they would take you from your home. They would put you in a ward for the sick, and then they would come clean your house. And by cleaning your house, I mean that they would burn everything inside it.
I was just about to say.
And then your house would be super clean. And there would be nothing in it. And that was their way of trying to like get the bad, whatever it was that was causing this plague, get that out of there. They didn't know,
so they were just going to burn it down. There was like, they finished burning it down and they turn over to the damn, whoever's left over there. And they're like, righto, have a good day.
Interestingly, those cities that implemented measures like that actually tended to do a little better with the plague because, you're burning all the shit that the rats were living in. But funny enough, the plague doctors actually had a higher rate of survival than most people because they wore the big heavy cloak, which would, if we think about how the plague was actually spreading, now that we can look back, it was spreading through fleas on rats. Well, if you're wearing that big heavy cloak all the time, you're protected from rat bites and from flea bites.
Right.
The rats aren't coming near you, and the fleas aren't getting on you because you have this huge heavy coat. And then, their mask with the herbs in it actually helped protect them from some of the more like airborne particles and things like that. So it actually was quite an effective outfit, although,
So you mean their masks helped them?
They helped.
Interesting.
Oh, what a fascinating concept.
Something that, you know what? Didn't know that.
You just take that, put it in your pocket.
Do with that what you will, folks.
Yeah. So more spooky facts for you. Rapid
I'm ready.
fire. Let's
shoot
go.
them over here.
Ghost ships. Very common in this period.
Yep. That's where I was going to go.
People and merchants would stumble onto vessels adrift in the sea only to discover that every living soul aboard had perished.
Yep. So fun fact, it was actually one of those ghost ships that brought the Black Plague to Northern Europe, to places like, I think it was Norway or like
Norway is like, why the fuck y'all dragging us into this?
I think it was Norway, those areas up there. So it was a ship because they thought that because the plague had been happening in Southern Europe for a while. I forget how long it was, but and they had no issues with it, right?
Norway was like, we good, bro.
They were like, they had no issues with it. And then one of those ghost ships actually came to port. And it released the Black Plague, and that's how the Black Plague spread throughout Northern Europe.
No, that boat didn't do shit. That boat floated on in. Okay,
I can't remember.
And then them motherfuckers was like, let's take a look around. That's what happened. No, burn it immediately. Light a candle. Say you sorry. Do last rites. Burn that motherfucker. Ain't nobody going on board. It certainly is not happening. Or we just going to get a big ass fan. Everybody bring you fan.
Yep.
And we just going to blow it out the harbor. We just going to send it on somewhere else.
Yep.
Let somebody else deal with that shit.
They thought that they were safer. I think because the temperature wise it was colder up there. So I don't know if that's something to do with the fleas and like they weren't as
that would make sense.
Active. So they thought that they were more protected from it, and then that fucking ship came, that ghost ship came, and I can't remember if it crashed on the shore or the port or wherever, or if it.
I mean, I would have to imagine that it didn't like parallel park if nobody's fucking.
Or what happened, or if like someone went out and they got it or whatever. I can't remember, but because I've found that doing research for
Crimes
one of our
paranormal shit at sea.
Actually, before that, though, because when one of our Halloween parties that we did, when we did the witches, my goat head man, I created his backstory around that. I actually have a little like fictional story regarding that, where this character that I created was actually used magic to pull that Black Plague ship to shore to wreak havoc on revenge, shall you say.
You're such a fucking nerd.
Anyway.
I love you so much. I love you and your boil having ass so much.
Might be a Patreon thing I read for you.
Maybe. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be super cool. Okay, so the treatments for the Black Plague. I know you all want to know how to cure the Black Plague, so I'm going to share it with you. Here you go. You ready? Okay. Don't bathe because, quote,
Wait, what?
God doesn't like us to be bathed, end quote.
Huh?
So the next time that you tell me I need to wash my hair because it's quarantine and I've gone like 5 days without it, I'm just going to respond with God doesn't like us to be bathed, Kenneth.
Is that what they thought?
Yes.
Or is this like, no, okay.
No, it was actually a thing.
So bathing is good. Let's just clarify that. Bathing is good.
I guess if you want to piss off God. They thought that it wouldn't. So there was this whole thing, and it's like a weird side story, and I know way too much about it, and I can't even remember where I learned it. But basically, I mean, it was a legitimate source. I just don't remember exactly at what point in my life I learned it. But there was this whole thing about skin. And, like, the reason that people covered up their skin so much was because they were worried that, like, skin was super porous and that, like, you would absorb things through your skin in the environment. And, I mean, it sort of is, but it also isn't. And so they would go long periods of time without bathing, both because they didn't have a fucking tub to fill up to bathe in all the time, but also because they actually felt that that layer of, like, dirt and grime would protect them from, like, bad energies in the air or a bad ether that would make them sick. That's a true story.
Realize that, like, baby, like, what you know, that dirt, yes, your skin does absorb shit.
It does.
Right? And, like,
but just not, like, just walking through the air.
Right. But, like, also that if you were to bathe, that would mean that you were, because your skin is an organ.
Wear sunscreen. This has been sponsored by Tropicana.
Tropicana
is a juice.
And
Tropicana is orange juice.
It's a fucking...
Oh, shit.
Listen, I mean, did they have their vitamin C back then? Who knows? I mean, shit. Maybe if they had a glass of Tang, they would have been all right.
Maybe they fucking would have. Tang.
Maybe they would have gotten their vitamin C through a fucking glass of fucking powdered ass vitamin C.
I tell you what.
Tang.
It worked great for me in the 90s.
Tang is kicking a glass, boy. And it will fucking kick that.
Kicking a glass.
That's what they say. Tang is kicking a glass.
Tang is kicking a glass.
Right. That's me as the time traveling plague doctor that I hope to become one day.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go back there. You know, I would love to do that and then just go back and then just like hopefully not catch the plague, and bring it back.
Man, I'd just be passing out cocaine to everybody.
Pass the cocaine.
I would be passing out cocaine to everybody and fucking vibrating people to stress.
Vibrating
relief.
people?
No, I mean, it's a thing. Remember we talked about it, how doctors would be like, women would come in with legitimate medical concerns, which is kind of the dark side of things, but they just be like, you have hysteria, and then they just like get a fucking vibrator out. Like, I would be passing out cocaine
need to be fucked.
And switching on vibrators like I had an OnlyFans. I mean, I'd be the most popular doctor in town until they burn me at the stake because I'm a woman and I'm not supposed to be doing that.
Right. You do that, and then I'll be passing out the Tang.
Yeah.
I'll have a little stand, and it'll be
Seems
great.
Like it'd be a great enterprise. So ways that we were fighting our Black Plague, right? Because we have to learn this. It's very important. We're not bathing. We would also, I guess this is like an addendum to not bathing. Or maybe an exception. If you showered yourself with urine and dung, apparently that helped. Just seems like a lot. Also, sleeping with a dead sheep, specifically a dead one.
This just seems like someone that had some really weird kinks.
Yeah.
That was just taking advantage.
And then we have adding aromatic herbs to beverages, which honestly sounds quite pleasant. I think I'll take that one.
Okay. Aromatic, but what are these aromatic herbs?
I don't know, man.
Just because it's aromatic doesn't mean that it's a good aromatic, right? Like, that just means it has an aroma.
It's true.
And that could either be good or bad.
It could
what
be
are they
like
putting in
shitweed
it?
or something horrible. It probably was horrible.
Fucking piss in your cup.
There you go. It's good for you. Golden shower. Keep you safe.
Here we go. Why do we always end up
peeing on people?
Fucking. It's just, I don't understand why the conversation always comes back to golden showers.
The only thing that it's going to fix for you is a jellyfish sting. Okay? It's the only thing it's ever fixed. And that, yeah, it will fix that. It will fix that. Ammonia. Look it up. It's a thing. But you just, unless it's purely recreational. If you haven't been stung by a jellyfish and somebody's peeing on you, it's purely recreational, which, sure, go for it. Like, we're not going to kink shame here. Live your life. But, it's not going to help you with the plague.
No. So they're just literally like, all right, so we have this horrible fucking crippling disease with, like, anywhere from 80 to fucking, you're going to fucking die %.
100 and die %.
100 and die %. Yes. So what we're going to do is you're not going to bathe. Just fucking shit on yourself.
Yeah.
Shit and piss all over yourself.
Yes.
I can't even say it.
Drink a lot of pee.
Don't shower. Just shit and piss all over yourself. You'll be fine. That's how we're going to combat it.
Sleep with a dead sheep.
And then, I mean, if you've got a dead sheep.
Sleeping with a dead sheep was that its own form of treatment? Or were you
like
having to
mechanism.
sleep with a dead sheep because your wife no longer wanted to sleep beside you because you hadn't bathed and were showering yourself with piss and shit? Like, is the dead sheep a treatment in itself, or is the dead sheep like today a problem we would solve with like adamandeve.com?
I don't know. But here's the thing. She probably shouldn't be so judgy because she probably also fucking reeks. Yeah. And like, and frankly is probably also covered in piss and shit. I mean, I feel like it's not a far stretch to go. I feel like most people back then were probably just already covered in piss and shit.
Lest he who is not covered in piss and shit be the first to throw stones. Anyway. So that's how the proverb goes, right?
Yeah.
So here are some other things that we can do. Our list continues. So we added aromatic herbs to our beverages. We also need to be sure that we avoid bad thoughts, stay happy, avoid lechery, and any various number of sins. So just be happy.
So that throws sodomy out the
Avoid
way.
bad thoughts. It actually sounds like a prescription for fighting depression in 2020. Have you thought about not being depressed?
Right.
Consider it. Or you could go see a therapist and get help.
I don't think they had therapists back then.
That's true. So that's how we can avoid plague.
Okay. Side note, it's not.
It's not. Maybe just don't.
Well, we say all the time we're not
hygiene.
doctors, but I feel like I can confidently say to just bathe.
You literally don't do any of that.
Don't shit and piss on yourself unless it's, you're in a controlled environment.
Right. Sure. Sure. I mean, live your life. We support you.
And by controlled environment, I mean away from me.
I mean, live your life. I'm not going to judge you. So this period also saw the abandonment of 3,000 villages and towns throughout Europe.
Yeah.
Today, centuries-old foundations of barns and homes in these abandoned ghost villages, like Hound Tor in Devon, for example, remain barren and are said to be very, very haunted. And speaking of very haunted, that actually brings me to my last topic of the evening. London's haunted plague pits.
That sounds like a great place.
That's my fucking death punk band. Fucking London's haunted plague pits. Oh, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm just going to an LHPP concert.
London's haunted plague pits. Yes.
100%.
I am into it. Let's just fucking go.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So from 1665 to 1666, London, England, suffered a resurgence outbreak of the Black Death. Yes, the plague that had happened in the 14th century came right the fuck back. She circled back around in the 1600s and said, "What up, London?"
She said, "Oh, what was it? She said, surprise, bitch. Bet you thought she'd seen the last of me." She was literally that meme. She's surprise, bitch.
She did. She was tossing her hair. So over 100,000 people began to develop the signature large sores and black spots all over their body. They coughed up blood from their lungs and died within just a few days. 1/5 of the city's entire population had died, and there were so many bodies that piled up, they had to be picked up off the street and pushed in carts to be dumped in mass graves. The citizens of London were terrified of getting sick, understandably, especially since no one knew where the disease came from yet. Remember, we just discovered in the 1900s that this thing most likely came from fleas on rats, on ships.
I don't know, Mary Beth. Maybe it came from you shitting on yourself.
It can't have helped. So they didn't know where it was coming from. Red crosses were painted on doors of the infected, and plague doctors wore masks that resembled some sort of hellish bird creature. Those came back into style. Some people believed that the plague was the work of the devil, and that the sickness was a punishment for the world's sins. It was, after all, the eve of the year 1666. Others thought the disease oozed from the gases of the earth itself. In reality, of course, we know the story about the fleas and the airborne illness.
The gases of the earth itself. No, that's just your fucking husband.
Yeah, no,
and
it's just his gases.
He is just, he's got some issues. He's got IBS. It's fine.
It's fine. They'll diagnose it in a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
So, hundreds of years later, after this resurgence in London, construction workers, obviously working in London, still uncover clusters of plague pits beneath the city streets. In 2015, a particularly large grave was uncovered as workers were in the process of building a new subway station underneath the city. Some say that with these bodies dumped so carelessly into plague pits, the spirits of the Black Death victims still roam to this day. For our London listeners, the spirits of these plague victims are probably much closer than you might think. In fact, the London Metro may have been specifically designed to avoid the plague pits. They said, we're just going to build around them. Maybe he was a descendant of the Bone Church man.
Maybe.
Who was like, just build around them.
Let's just go around them. Instead of you'd have someone who's like, let's build a bone subway.
Yes, that was that guy. He was at the meeting. He was at the pitch meeting. And he was like, what if we built it out of bones?
He's actually some crazy, like, hundreds of year old, like, bone sorcerer. And he just comes, like, walking in, like, all crippled with his fucking cane.
He is the dude who built the fucking church out of bones, and he gained immortality from it.
He did.
All the lights are, like, flickering. They're like, what if we made it out of bones? And everybody's like,
but don't
no,
they call
James.
it the tube?
Yeah, the London Eye. It's also called the tube.
That's horrifying. The eye.
No, the eye's something different. The eye's the Ferris wheel.
Don't they call it a tube?
I think it's the tube.
I think they call it a tube.
Look, all I know, I'm sure it's a great place. Never fucking been there. Went to Scotland instead. Die mad about it.
Because I think we call ours the Metro here in D.C.
We do.
I think it's called, or the
Such
underground. Maybe it's called the underground.
Yeah, that's it. But I think it's also called the tube.
The tube. Underground tube.
Whatever.
Anyway, he was like, let's call it
just mind the gap.
Bone. The bone tube.
The bone tube.
And it'll speed right through the London Underground. And as you pass by,
clickety-clackety, clickety-clackety of the bone.
The skulls of everyone who has perished. Woo! And then he gets really excited. And then they're like, dude, who the fuck are you?
And they were
Get out.
Shermont, we asked you not to attend these meetings anymore.
Not Shermont.
You have upset. I'm sorry, it's in London. We've asked you not to attend these meetings anymore. It upsets everyone.
Lord.
I don't know why it's such a posh British man who's having this conversation.
Lord Shermont, please remove yourself.
He just shuffles into the hallway and is never seen again.
Until 2020.
Oh, my next... oh, fuck. He's like, let's build things out of bones again. It works great.
I need this character in my life somehow.
Yes. The bone builder. Yeah. He's like Bob the Builder, but like...
Bone builder.
Bones everywhere.
Yeah.
Too much. My next sentence, looking at the map of London's beloved tube today. So there you go. The tube.
At least I knew the answer to that question. I mean, it really wasn't a question, but I knew that. I feel smart.
You're
Great.
such a cultured
Silver
man.
lining. Cultured over here.
Absolutely. We're finding all kinds of silver linings in today's episode. So, looking at the map of the tube, the design does seem a bit odd because the tracks go in a zigzag pattern rather than having the trains. Sorry.
Zigzag.
They do. It goes in a zigzag pattern rather than having the trains traveling back and forth in straight lines, which would be the more logical approach, no doubt. Stories say that once the workers began digging underground to build the tube in 1863, they discovered the city's massive plague pits. According to a researcher named Catherine Arnold, the engineers found pits, quote, so dense with human remains that they could not be tunneled through, end quote.
Fuck.
They had no choice but to go around the piles of dead bodies, thus the strange patterns we observe. People working for the government say this is just a rumor because there are no written records that indicate that the plague pits caused any kind of problem during the original construction in the 1800s. However, it's possible that the city did not want this on record because it may be interpreted as disrespectful to the dead. I don't know.
They just said we're going to swerve around it.
We're just going to build around it.
They just said whoop, 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 whoop. We're just going to ignore that.
Hell of a solution.
Instead of like
practical.
Potentially like exhuming these these remains and giving them like a proper place to like rest. Let's just not. And just build around it so that for eternity they just have to listen to the fucking London Tube for the rest of their goddamn fucking remains.
Yeah.
Remains of their existence. That's what they do. That's what they're doing. And that sucks, man. Damn, you die from the plague and then you got to listen to fucking people. You got to listen to the fucking tube underground for the rest of your life. Rest of your spirit life.
Silver linings. We're finding them everywhere.
I mean, unless somehow my remains get buried underground somehow. I'm going to take you there
and be like, this is what he wanted.
No. God, absolutely not. No. Wow.
So this was sort of like a thing of rumor, right? It was sort of like a thing of legend, like people would talk about when we talked about the tube. It was kind of like the conspiracy theory of like, oh, it's built around the plague pit. It's super spooky. But then in 2015, there actually finally seemed to be evidence that these stories passed down through the generations were actually true or had some bit of truth.
Of course.
During the most recent expansion of the London Tube, a plague pit was uncovered right away. With so many workers on site, it was impossible to silence them. Shortly thereafter, in 2016, a reporter for the BBC did a lot of research into the construction of the London subway system and learned that the workers did, in fact, find hundreds of bodies from plague pits over the years, and that the government each time had attempted to cover it up. In some cases, the bones were dropped inside of concrete arches and pillars because the workers had no idea where else to hide them.
Like a part of the structure of the tube?
Yep.
So then they would just become... So then the bone man is right all along. He got his bone tunnel.
He did. It would seem so.
Oh, God. I just don't understand why. Like we all... It's like the fucking Black Plague was a huge secret. Like, you know what I mean? I don't understand why.
Right.
Like, okay, we know what happened.
I mean, there would be a lot of cost. I mean, exhuming one body is very expensive. Exhuming an entire plague pit full of bodies and finding somewhere to lay them each to rest is extremely expensive. It would have been absolutely in the government's best interest to just buck in. Nope. Oh. It's like one of the employees is like, hey, we were digging and we found like this femur bone, and his manager just like takes the femur out of his hand and like flings it into a concrete mixer and is like, what femur? I didn't see a femur.
I didn't see a fucking femur.
I don't know. No femur. No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it anywhere.
Did you see a femur, Reginald? No, you didn't, did you?
Yeah. Do you want to keep your femurs? Anyway, so we talked about building the tube around the plague pits.
Yeah.
But what if we built it on one?
What if we don't?
The Aldgate station is rumored to have been one of the only spots where the city had no choice but to build directly on top of one of the plague pits instead of moving around it. This means that the remains of the dead were mixed in with the concrete, or their bones were simply discarded during the construction process. There have been several reports of strange sounds echoing in the Aldgate station, specifically by employees who were there alone at night. As you might expect, being built on top of a plague pit didn't exactly bode well for the Aldgate station.
You don't think?
The spot is relatively well known in certain circles as a hotbed of ghostly activity. In one such instance, an electrician was working on some faulty wiring. Suddenly, he was electrocuted, and it sent a jolt through his body. His coworkers were nearby and turned to look at their friend. Just as he began to convulse with electricity surging through his body, the coworkers say that they saw a ghostly woman wearing 17th century clothing standing over the man and stroking his hair, as if to comfort him.
Why wasn't she covered in piss and shit?
Maybe she was. I mean, damn. You don't know.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Was it a hat? We don't know.
I don't know about that.
To this day, it's reported that ghostly apparitions and orbs are seen in many of London's metro stations. It would seem that the victims of the Black Death are not sleeping peacefully.
I don't like the way you said that. The way you just kind of like went up a little bit at the end there was truly terrifying.
I was thinking of like, God bless one of our UK listeners who's like listening as they're riding home on the tube. And they're just like, goodbye.
They just look over and they see, what's our, Shermont, the bone guy.
The bone man.
He's just looking at him.
You have some awfully strong bones.
Oh, look at your bones. I see.
Perfect to pitch through.
Madam, has anyone told you how great your clavicle is?
Truly, that is me with dudes, though. I'll be like, I love a fucking clavicle.
Katie's like,
I
you
want
like my
touch it.
clavicle?
No, not mine. Yeah, that's on my list. It's on my checkoff list. Gotta have a nice clavicle.
Yeah,
I like
is
to
true.
hook my fingers on it.
Well, that's truly terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, we went through history a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we discovered what not to do
We
for
did.
the plague.
We did.
You know, like bathing and just general hygiene. Just don't do it. You know, so as to keep yourself safe from death.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we kind of segued a little bit into the metro, and then we learned about ghost ships. There was a lot there.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. And it was
an
really
extra
creepy.
stuffed.
I think
it's like those new Oreos, those Max stuff Oreos. That's what this episode was. So
well,
you're welcome.
I didn't know about the, I knew about the ghost ships, but I did not know about these pits.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of, the Paris catacombs, but not if the Paris catacombs were like a secret, you know, cover up where we just kind of zigzagged around it and tried to ignore it and act like it didn't happen because it was too expensive to fucking deal with at the time.
It's like when you try to bleach your hair at home and you just fucking it looks like shit and you're just like, we're just gonna go around it, we're gonna just take it into a purple zone now it's just gonna be purple. And you were like starting out wanting like ashy white blonde and you're just like, I'm just gonna go with purple, you know, it's fine. You know,
it's great. I love this color.
I wanted this. We're just gonna go around the problem because it's too expensive to fix.
You know what, I think it looks better. I wanted bangs.
Yes,
They look great.
It's that, but with a metro.
Right. So yeah, truly terrifying stuff. I mean,
If you
All
are a
the respect
UK
to the
listener, true that, but if you, I'm trying to get these ghost stories, boy. If you're a UK listener and you have any ghost stories for me involving the tube, or really any mode of transportation, or anything related to the fucking anything that we talked about being the Black Death, please send me your Black Death stories. I want to know about them. I want to know about these weird haunted like tube stations that you guys have. I want to know, have you ever found a bone in the concrete? I just want to know. I want to know these things. So please write us an email at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. That's thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. I have been told that I say our email too quickly. But
wait, what?
You know that you can also slow the show down in your podcast app.
Wait,
So,
what?
just a pro tip.
Someone told you that you say that too fast?
They were like, how do you ever expect anybody to email you when you say the email so fast? And I'm like, have you ever thought that maybe you're listening too slowly?
Well, speaking of emails, I did have an email that I would like to read.
Sure.
To sign us off. An email. We just got an email. Wonder who it's from.
Whoa.
This is from a listener, Emily. She says, hey, y'all, just want to let you guys know I just recently started listening, and I am totally hooked.
We love a new listener.
We do.
Yay. Welcome.
I love your energies, and you guys always make me laugh. Love that you can keep it light, and the topics are extremely entertaining. Basically,
keeping it light. That's what we did today, Emily.
Fucking Black Death.
Love you.
Basically, y'all are doing a great job. I wanted to let you know of an urban legend for when you guys do your trip around America. Remember that when we tossed that around?
Fuck yeah. And then we got hit with the fucking plague. But we're still going to make it around
I think
America.
that was before the plague, though.
I mean, some build up. We got a lot in the barrel.
We can't just throw it all out at you at once.
No, it can't be this Christmas special. It can't be that.
It's called the Bridgewater Triangle. This shit has it all. Cryptids. I'm not gonna.
It's fine.
Am I correcting?
We're gonna
email?
Don't correct the email.
Cryptids.
Nobody's gonna write us.
Haunted woods and swamps. Phantom hitchhikers. UFOs. The works. It's made of 3 points in Massachusetts. I recently watched a doc on Amazon Prime about it. Pretty corny, but does have a good amount of info on it. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and moved to the Massachusetts/Rhode Island area about 4 years ago. I first learned about this about a year ago and found it pretty interesting. But my husband and I bought a house out in the woods of Rhode Island, and you can be sure I Google mapped how far away we are from the Conjuring house. Not trying to live on cursed land. Anyway, sorry this was a bit long. Hope you guys are living your best 2020 lives. You sure are keeping me going. Stay spooky, friends. Emily. And then, of course, she gave us permission to read this on the show when the time came. And the time is here, and we have read it. So thank you for that.
I love that. Thank you for your email, Emily. I love hearing from all sorts of listeners, but especially new listeners. It's very exciting. We're very happy and excited to have you along on the ride for us. Totally. And I have definitely heard about the Bridgewater Triangle. It's actually on my list of topics that I want to talk about on the show at some point, because it is kind of like a clusterfuck of all these different things. So
sounds fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic. So we'll definitely talk more about that at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. Here we are at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And probably everybody tuned out, but it's fine. Hopefully they got to hear Emily's beautiful email. We wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up. As you know, this feels like a very pregnant pause. So we've been doing the show for a while. We've been at it for over 2 years. And in February, we will be celebrating 3 years on the air with you. And during that time, we've had our share of unscheduled breaks where we just sort of fall off the face of the earth for a bit.
Just fucking disappear, just like our fucking father figures.
Yeah. But we don't want to be absentee fathers to you. So we have kind of, after a lot of thought, it's been, in the chamber for a while, for several months, we've kind of been talking about how we would want to structure this. And in order to keep the content fresh, to make sure that we are coming to you guys excited to be sitting down and telling you a story every week, we are going to implement kind of like an off season, if you will, with the show. So that will be, our off season will be in September. We're going to take the month of September off. I'm very sorry. Both of us are very sorry, but we can't, we just want to make sure that we're keeping it fresh and that we're keeping it fun. And we have a lot of stuff planned for October, and we want to make sure that we really deliver on that for you guys. So we're going to take the month of September. We're going to get through it. I have some like personal shit going on. Nothing bad. I'm totally fine. But I have like this crazy, I'll tell you guys, I don't care. I have this crazy hard test that's coming up, and I'm studying for that like literally 40 hours a week. And we have a bunch of stuff we want to deliver to you in October, and we want to make sure that we can kind of keep all the plates spinning in the air. So we will be taking the month of September off. Going forward, we are going to have some sort of off season, but we will try not to make it any longer than like a month, because I know how much it sucks when your favorite podcast is not putting out episodes, because I am a podcast listener. So I get it.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that we're consistently delivering to the level that we want to be giving you content, and trust that when we tell you we're coming back in October with a bang, we are coming back in October with a bang.
And I'm not like, and we're not just saying this, and like,
no,
and
shit's
with
been
nothing
done.
like shit has been done. There's like some really cool things that we have been working on that have been done, and like you'll get the first bits of that towards the end of September, and like come October, it's like we're really just trying to like go full speed ahead,
fucking throttle,
and protect. Essentially, that's what this break here in September is about: is protecting what we are going to deliver in October, because we're really excited for it. Right. So, and we can't wait to start sharing that with you. But until then, we're just gonna take a bit of a space, a bit of a breather, and that's not to say that we are not going to be working on the show, because we will be working on the show behind the scenes, and getting stuff prepped for October. And also we will be continuing to deliver Patreon content for you guys in September, so that way you're not just completely out of anything. We've got some cool things that we're going to do there, and still keep on posting. So we'll be active on Patreon. Just you'll just miss us on the feed for a little bit.
Right. As far as outside, so the lights in the front yard are going to be off, but the party in the house is still going. We'll still be posting some things on Patreon. So if you're a member of the Patreon, you will have content from us in the month of September. So we will make sure that like you guys are taken care of. If you're not on the Patreon and you want to hear from us, I promise you this is not a ploy to get you to join Patreon. Please don't think that. But if you want to support the show and you're interested in getting some content here and there in September, definitely consider joining Patreon. It's patreon.com/thehauntedheart. But yeah, otherwise, we'll holla at you in October. But we do have one more episode. Next week's episode will be the last episode before the break. Then we'll be taking the month of September off, and we'll be back on that first week of October.
Yep, that first week of October, folks.
And it's going to be a fucking rockin' October. I'm so excited for October.
I am too. And like it's like taking everything like within me to like not just like go ahead and like blurt it out. No. But we have to keep it a secret for right now, but we're really excited for it. And yeah, so one more episode. It'll be my episode next week, folks. I will be closing
Kenny's gonna polish us off.
Yeah, I'm gonna polish us off, folks. So until that time, you know what you got to do.
You gotta shower yourself in piss and shit. Was that not it? Did we not?
No, absolutely. Shower yourself in piss and shit.
And stay spooky.